right, let's do it again.
Silencio! I would like to have the authority of this conclave to discuss what has happened.
It's very obvious that something serious has happened, and I, for one, would like to know what it is.
We are here to listen to God.
Conclave takes us behind a super secretive world that no one's ever seen and that no one will ever see. It's probably the most secretive process, the most secretive election in the world, and I was super curious to peek behind those doors and find out all those details.
Forgive me, but let me speak from the heart for a moment.
Certainty is the great enemy of unity.
It's about faith, but the nuts and bolts function like a political thriller.
They say eavesdroppers can use lasers to read the vibrations on the glass.
Really? Well, let's hope none of our brothers suffer from claustrophobia. And who knows how long we're going to be in here.
I think it has a real dramatic tension.
Pass the chalice.
And let it go to him. And I could never live with myself. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of sort of subtle, and maybe not so subtle, backstabbing.
I feel wretched that my meager tally of votes may have come at your expense.
I had no idea you were so ambitious.
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Everybody is susceptible to human failings, jealousy, grudges, vindictiveness, ambition, greed. But in the context of sacred people, people who live a spiritual life and are presumed to be pure, that just sets up an automatic tension and duality. The throne of the Holy See is vacant.
Conclave has been in the works for years. The movies take a long time developing, but I can tell you why I chose Conclave to make is because I loved the detail that Peter Strawn wrote the screenplay with. We should just accept the miracle.
I was sent the script out of the blue.
I'd say this is a pretty fair vision of hell.
Well, don't be blasphemous, Ray. Hell arrives tomorrow when we bring in the Cardinal.
I was sent it, read it, loved it. Peter Strawn, who wrote the script, I love his screenwriting.
Aldo doesn't want it. Any of it. You know that, don't you?
It was a great read and quite layered.
The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
I thought it was beautifully written. It's always hard adapting a novel. I think especially something that's as sensitive a subject as this. And I feel that Peter got it perfectly.
What happened?
They say a heart attack, but there had been warnings.
I loved the world that it inhabited.
But it is tomorrow night that the real work begins.
I loved all the questions that it would wrangle. And especially I loved the hero's journey.
Your homily has caused quite the stir.
Edward Berger, I had just seen his film All Quiet on the Western Front, thought it was fantastic.
It's very sensitive to the particulars of each scene, the emotional particulars of each scene, but also, of course, the imagery. When I'm able to look at the monitor and I see what Edward's doing, it helps me very much as an actor.
I was taken by the poetry of the images, so I thought, oh, he's going to photograph Rome, which is my city. The Vatican has a very strong presence. He's going to photograph it really beautiful and able to capture the poetry of this strange, unusual city that has a presence of Catholicism that dominates our culture. I really think it would be better if you let me deal with the situation.
Would you be so good as to leave us now, Sister Agnes?
I really am drawn usually to stories that are told from a very subjective POV, from a very first-person POV. And when I read the book and the script, the first name we came up with was Ray Fiennes. The biggest challenge with this role is that most of it is behind his eyes. He doesn't say what he feels. He actually doesn't have the most lines. Other people talk, and he listens a lot.
Every cardinal deep down has already chosen the name by which he would like his papacy to be known.
Rafe is really an actor who's able to portray an inner turmoil, an inner life. And that's why we went to him immediately.
I think we've had enough secrets.
He was complex. He's got his doubts. He's a religious man, but a questioning man. He's a man of spiritual integrity. And I like the drama in the challenges he faces to make sure it proceeds ethically and morally and transparently.
You must take over the supervision of this election, Aldo.
In the book, of course, Lawrence is Lomeli. He's an Italian. Edward Berger's decision was, well, if you're English, let's make him English. My first thought was, how many Englishmen are cardinals in the Vatican? It turns out there is one. I met him. And so once I was kind of assured that it was rare but plausible that Lomeli could become Lawrence.
Would you like me to hear your confession?
We have an Englishman, Ralph Fiennes, and an American actor, Stanley Tucci. They're the best of their craft.
This is a conclave, Aldo. It's not a war.
It is a war!
I felt them really trying to have a little fencing game with each other, verbal fencing bouts.
Told me you wanted to resign, and then you step out of the shadows like this. The character is very much on the page. Now, who knows? And then it's really a matter of how angry someone might get, how emotionally available he might make himself during a scene, or how removed he might be during a scene. And that happens on the day.
You should be ashamed. 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 We should all be ashamed.
Stanley's one of those actors where you watch him on set and it all feels very light. He might say the line and you won't see anything when you look him in the eye on set, but then on film, it's all there. And it's unbelievable. It's such a magic what he creates.
It isn't Tremblay's reputation that's going to suffer. It's the church's.
Every one of the characters has secrets. Tremblay has his secrets too. But also they are all cardinals, which means they are all candidates to be the most important figure in the Catholic Church. I know my name has been mentioned as a future pope, so it's quite important that everyone be a plausible pope, to have a certain deeply convincing spirituality.
You would libel the Holy Father in his own home.
It isn't libel. It's the truth.
John is a force of nature. He brings an honesty to his roles. He brings a depth. He brings humor. He brings warmth. He brings a playfulness with words. He loves words, and you can see when he says those words how much he cherishes and wants to share them with an audience.
I should pretend this conversation never took place.
Isabella Rossellini is obviously an icon.
The role was very intriguing. I was the only woman in a sea of men that take decision, but she is not silent. Welfare of the sister is my responsibility.
And this conclave is mine.
There is a lot of presence, and I love that. Women don't have a very strong role in the Catholic Church. They are submissive, but I have this fantastic line.
Eminences, although we sisters are supposed to be invisible, God has nevertheless given us eyes and ears.
That is my favorite line in the script, because they do see, they do hear, they have opinion, and their presence tells. And sometimes they can have an authority without words, serving a glass of wine, serving a glass of water.
She slowly brings a new voice to the church and to the proceedings that we are privy to witness. And she does it in a very quiet, subtle way, but her power is omnipresent in the movie.
Welcome to our order, Vincent Benitez, Cardinal Archbishop of Kabul.
We found Carlos Dietz in Vancouver. He's an actor from Mexico.
There was a worldwide casting call, so I submitted for it. I was invited to audition, and I talked to Edward about my take about the character, the tone of the story, and we agreed on certain things. And then I was invited to another call back in Rome, and that's how I got it.
Let our differences unite us.
Benitez is the voice of reason and love, and that's how he commits himself.
There are millions outside these walls looking to us for guidance.
There's a quality to his playing that felt needed to be very fresh and then needed to have a deeper layer.
I am what God made me.
Quanto staremo ancora? Quanto vivremo ancora in questa debolezza?
Sergio Castellitto is a wonderful Italian actor. He's a superstar in Italy. And Sergio brings an anarchic quality to his role, to his appearance on set.
No.
And you feel that energy in the film.
Senza Roma, senza la tradizione di Roma, things fall apart.
It was very important to be authentic. And that's why we went to shoot it in Rome.
Of course, it was fantastic for me to shoot a film in Rome. I was born in Rome. So I was here as an Italian, as a Roman, and as a foreigner. The best.
We're in a country where craftsmanship and artistic brilliance to do with image is extraordinary, going back centuries.
You feel the history of cinema in these walls, and it's an incredible honor. It's incredibly inspiring to shoot on these grounds, to walk the places where Antonioni worked, and make a movie there. It just inspires the film, inspires the process, inspires everyone who works on it.
The whole film, from a design point of view, is about balance of everything, light and dark, male and female, traditional and contemporary. So we've got these elements of Rome and the Vatican that are traditional and beautiful and ornate and gilded and ancient. And then we've got sharp, airless, locked-in, brutal, fascist sort of designs.
Most of our scenes take place in the Sistine Chapel, where the College of Cardinals is sequestered. Our very first day of work was not work at all. It was a special tour of the Vatican Museum, ending in the Sistine Chapel. Of course, we don't shoot in the Sistine Chapel.
We built the Sistine Chapel and the Casa Santa Marta, the hallways and the papal suites and the cardinal suites in the famous Cinecittà studios.
Bringing the Sistine Chapel to life was actually much easier than we thought, because there's a set already built in Cinecittà that we were able to put back together again. And we even used the same painters that put it together in the first place, so their efforts and works were brilliant.
You don't even have to do research, you're just here.
I wanted it to feel like a posh prison almost. They were locked in, so the doors have elements of prison doors about them. The windows very rarely open. We've got shutters on them. And then working with Stefan and the lighting of those environments was really important, to have this sort of hermetically sealed feeling when they're inside the Casa Santa Marta, and then this slight more freedom when we're in the Sistine and when we're in the gardens of the Vatican.
I got obsessed about when they have dinner, what do they wear? You know, they have a red choir dress when they sit in the Sistine Chapel, then they go back to the Casa Santa Marta. And do they all change?
I worked with Lizzie Crystal, our costume designer, and I found a friend for life. And I can't imagine any movie that she won't be on.
After a very intensive research, it took me a while to allow myself to create something new, a more minimalistic idea of this eclectic attire.
Her vision was to not go to a rental house and rent the costumes as cardinals would dress nowadays, but to look at the history of the church and to look at the history of those costumes and create an amalgamation that is close enough that it doesn't strike you as, ooh, what are they wearing? But the fabric is different. The sewing is different. There's a richness to the fabric. There's a richness to the whites, to the reds. And you'll see it in the movie that you just feel everyone is basically wearing the same thing. But not with Lizzie Crystal, because she finds little things like the crosses, the rings, the shoes, the overcoats, the suitcases that they're carrying that express a completely different life.
It was very interesting because men are not used to wear dresses, even if they wear underneath pants. They walk instantly different. And with this garment, they became these clergymen, these cardinals. And you could see the transformation from each of them.
I think the spirit of it is very accurate, and certainly we've worked hard to make sure we've had a religious advisor on site to make sure that the ceremonies and the gesturing and all that is accurate.
Music or movie making is always manipulation, no matter what you do. But I like to counterscore rather than manipulate the audience into one feeling. And Volker's music does that beautifully.
I wanted to have a religious theme in there, kind of maybe linked to Ralph Fiennes' role. So the first thing was, do I use an organ? And then I felt it might be nice to use a kind of glass instrument. And I knew the crystal pache because it has also quite distorted sounds. It sounds very modern. I had the feeling that this might be a good match in a way to replace the organ.
Amen.
In this film, I also play prepared piano, mainly for a low percussion. as well as for sounds that deconstruct the music every now and then. And then there's another theme that is mainly staccato strings that in a way creates a tension for the investigation and for more the thriller aspect of the score. Because whenever it appears, you're like, oh, you're getting stress.
I like films where you feel that the people who've written it and making it are relishing the complexity of what's at stake.
This report would never have seen the light of day if you had not broken into the Holy Father's apartment.
I think everyone will feel different, and everyone takes away what they take away from a movie. What I like to take away is that I identify myself with this character, and he's gone through a journey and he feels liberated from the burden that he felt before. And that's how I want to feel at the end of the movie. And it's great if some audiences want to follow that feeling.
It was as compelling as a mystery novel in this extremely unusual setting and subject.
If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery.